to search for survivors. They have not stopped. And today, our search and rescue teams found another body in the rubble. And as well, our search has revealed some human remains. The process of identifying these victims is very difficult. We're going to be relying on DNA testing, and that is why we've already been gathering DNA samples from the family members. So they have all participated and provided DNA to assist us in the identification. This allows us to do rapid DNA testing on site for bodies that we find. And you know, we identified 3 bodies in the rubble and had already notified the next of kin. So that is an update as well, because the 3 previous remains, now we have contacted the next of kin. But out of respect to the families, we're not going to be sharing those names at this time. So the numbers have changed. 3 bodies uncovered means that we now have accounted for 130, and it means that the unaccounted is now gone down to 156. Confirmed deaths are now at a total of 5. We're working very closely in coordination with our state and our federal partners. FEMA is on the scene in full force. All of our partners have truly rolled up their sleeves and jumped in to help in record time. Truly, this is an unprecedented national response. We are extremely grateful for the support that we have received from the national, the state, and the local partners, as well as throughout the state and elsewhere. And in addition, we're grateful for the support that we have embedded from our Israeli and Mexican teams that have joined our operation. We have a full set of social services available to the families at the hotel where most of them are staying, and so they are operating in shifts. They're available around the clock with grief counseling, rabbis, other religious leaders, all on site to assist our families during this difficult process. Many groups have volunteered as well to help, and we're coordinating their services. Chief among them, Jewish Community Services, which also operates the 211 helpline here with licensed clinicians, and they specialize in trauma and grief counseling. Also, our Community Action and Human Services agencies and Juvenile Services Department. Those are county departments with our own licensed psychologists and social workers on the scene assisting. Florida Blue has also offered to assist, and we've set up a grief hotline. That number is 833-848-1762. Again, 833-848-1762. Among many, many others who are stepping up and helping us. I just wanted to say how very, very moved I am, and all of us are, at the incredible outpouring of support that we have received right here in Surfside from all across the globe in the midst of this incredible tragedy. We know people are feeling this, they're feeling connected to us. We feel your support, we feel your love and compassion. This has truly shown us how interconnected we are as a world, as a global community. So on behalf of Miami-Dade County, I just want to say thank you so much to the entire world for stepping up and holding us in the palm of your hands. Thank you so very much for your love and for your prayers. And financially, we have received incredible support. There are multiple sites now available, and over $750,000 has been received through just one of the funds, support surfside.org, that was set up by Miami Foundation, Coral Gables Foundation, and Key Biscayne. So God bless our families and our first responders. We hold you in our hearts. Your labors have been just monumental, and we know you do it with passion and commitment, and you live to find people alive in the rubble. En español puedo decir, finalmente hoy hemos hecho progreso con muy mal en la mañana. y ahora está bajando un poquito. Y con eso pudimos seguir con nuestra búsqueda y rescate. Continuamos con los perros, con el equipo y con sonar y cámara. Y estamos enfocando en el sistema de mapeo del sitio. Y la prioridad continúa en buscar personas vivas. Estamos con esperanza y estamos trabajando hora tras hora para encontrar gente allí vivos. Hoy finalmente descubrimos otro cuerpo y estamos todavía identificándolo. No tenemos la información, la identificación, pero vamos a usar DNA, información para identificarlos, y todas las familias han dado su DNA para que podamos usar para identificar. También de los 3 que hemos que fueron descubiertos ayer, ya comunicamos con las familias, ya saben ellos, pero por consideración para su privacidad no vamos a decir en este momento quiénes son. Y con eso tenemos contables ahora 130 y no contables 156, y los muertos son 5. Estamos coordinando con el Estado, con agencias federales, y todos están muy involucrados. Llegaron inmediato, están ayudándonos. Y tenemos también todo tipo de servicio social, exactamente donde están las familias del condado, servicios del condado, del Estado, y especialmente de una agencia Jewish Community Services que especializa en trauma y pérdida. Tenemos una línea para los que quieren consejos por teléfono, 833-848-1762 y más. Hay muchas más personas ayudándonos, y quiero decir finalmente que estamos tan emocionados por todo lo que han hecho por alrededor del mundo, significando que somos un mundo muy pequeño, somos todos conectados, y todos están orando, pensando, rezando con nosotros, y nosotros sentimos su amor y estamos tan agradecidos. Y con dinero, fondos, hemos recibido 70 y 50 mil dólares ya en un fondo solamente, y tenemos otros fondos. Entonces mucha gente donando. Gracias a todos, y especialmente los que están trabajando tan fuerte, descubrir más personas vivas, y estamos juntos con ellos. Gracias.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And now Senator Marco Rubio.
First, I want to echo everything that everyone else has said, and that's our extraordinary gratitude for the men and women who are here working from all across the state, frankly, all across the world, to try to help these victims, both here in the rescue phase and also in all of the associated needs that come with it. This is a highly complex disaster. I'm here to speak briefly about the federal response to it, which I think has been substantial, and which we are grateful to the White House and all federal officials for having done it. To begin with, this building had a substantial number of foreign nationals and/or families of foreign nationals, and my office, in conjunction with other congressional offices, has been responsible in helping obtain visas very quickly for a lot of people who need to travel here. My understanding is that most of them are either here now or are en route. I want to thank the State Department. They've been phenomenal in all of our consulates around the world and embassies in expediting these visas to travel here for the families. The State Department is now on site. They now have a personnel on site, which will help further expedite this should additional relatives need to come here, and for any arrangements that need to be made after the fact. Also, of course, FEMA is here. Unlike other disaster situations, in this situation, all victims that have been impacted by this are going to be registered through the family center that's located here. They will then be channeled towards FEMA to determine eligibility and what services they are eligible for from the federal government. In addition, additional federal resources may be made available as requested by the county, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers or other elements of the Department of Defense. And I also want to thank the corporate community that has stood up. I know, for example, that Uber has been transporting and I want to thank people all across the world. As the mayor has already mentioned and others have mentioned, we have offers of support and help, concrete help from countries throughout Latin America, Israel as well, and we are grateful for those offers. Those offers are forwarded to the local authorities who will obviously make a determination about where best they fit in now or in the future. We're grateful to them. We're grateful to the whole country and to this community that has responded the way it has and continues to respond. And we continue to hold hope. We pray for God's grace, we pray for miracles, and we pray for God's peace and strength on the family and those that have been impacted by this. Muy brevemente en español para decirle que esta es una tragedia bien complicada. Este edificio tenía un número de personas del extranjero trabajando con el Departamento de Estado. Sabemos que han venido varias familias, han podido obtener visas humanitarias para viajar. La mayoría ya están acá, algunos todavía están en viaje. El Departamento de Estado ha hecho un gran labor en esta función y hay personal del Departamento de Estado aquí que va a ayudar a avanzar la necesidad para que cualquier tipo de viaje ahora o en el futuro que sea necesario. FEMA obviamente está aquí. En cambio a otros desastres, en este caso las víctimas se van a inscribir a través del sistema que ha creado el condado, del centro de víctimas que está acá y de familia, y a través de eso se va a procesar cualquier tipo de beneficios que sean elegibles de parte del gobierno federal y FEMA. También de otras agencias federales que están dispuestas a ayudar si es necesario, incluyendo el Departamento de Defensa, el Cuerpo de Ingenieros del Ejército y los demás. Y también darle las gracias a la comunidad corporativa que ha respondido, compañías que han ofrecido a ayudar a estas familias cuando llegan al extranjero a llegar acá, hoteles que han dado habitación a estas familias que vienen del extranjero. Ha sido una gran ayuda a toda la comunidad, le damos las gracias. A todas las personas que están trabajando aquí de todo el estado, de Tampa, de Orlando, de todas partes del estado que están aquí respondiendo a esta horrible tragedia. Y seguimos rezando por milagros, porque para Dios todo es posible, y también rezamos que Dios les dé paz y fortaleza a las familias que siguen esperando noticias y que han sido afectadas por esto. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Senator, for the kind words and your appreciation. And now the Surfside Mayor, Charles Burkett.
I don't have a lot to add to those comments other than to say little Surfside hasn't been so little these days. I've received personal calls from the White House. I've received a call from the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. I've received support from our two U.S. Senators, Rick Scott and Marco Rubio. I've received support from Debbie Wasserman Schultz and all the U.S. representatives. Governor DeSantis has been instrumental and has been here over and over again. Our county mayor, Daniela Cava, has also been incredibly supportive. We don't have a resource problem here, we have a luck problem. The issue is that we've been fighting the elements, we've been fighting the fire, but we have one objective, and that is to bring those people out of the rubble safely and return them to their families. And that's all we're going to do today, that's all we're going to do tomorrow, and that's all we're going to do the next day and the next day until it's done. So our objective here is to bring these people out of that rubble and to support the families. That's all there is to it. It's not complicated, and the work goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And now Miami-Dade Fire Chief Alan Kaminsky.
Good evening. We continue with our aggressive search and rescue strategy. We were able to contain the fire and minimize the smoke earlier this morning, approximately around 10:30, 11, and we've continued our search and rescue efforts. Currently, we're searching the entire debris field. We separated into multiple sections, and we're actively, with our 5 task force that we rotate through, we actively are applying our search and rescue techniques. We're still aggressively using all our tools that we have in regards to the sonar. We've done several sweeps, again with the debris field with our K9, as well as using any type of video equipment that we have as we're establishing these search techniques. We'll continue going through this, as hard as we can. I'm very proud of our task force members, very proud of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and all our activities that we've done. And we're going to continue searching and hopefully with a positive outcome.
Thank you, Chief. And now Erica Benitez, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, PIO en español.
Muy buenas noches. Nosotros continuamos en este momento nuestras tareas de búsqueda y rescate. Afortunadamente hemos podido controlar el incendio que hemos visto estos últimos días. Teníamos muchos escombros sobre los escombros por víctimas o sobrevivientes. En este momento también tenemos varios equipos de búsqueda y rescate de todas partes de la Florida, los cuales nos están asistiendo con esta labor, y esta labor va a continuar toda la noche, al igual que hemos estado trabajando todos estos últimos días. Gracias.
Thank you, Erica. Now we're going to be opening up for questions. Please raise your hand and you'll be selected. Go ahead, sir, and please address who you're going to ask the question to.
It's probably for the Mayor. You mentioned that human remains have been found on the site. I was wondering if you could tell us about the nature of them, about the volume, how much has been found, and the process of being able to identify those victims through people who've given DNA swabs.
I'm going to let the police director address that. Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, we have homicide detectives embedded with the recovery teams, as well as our medical examiner's office personnel. When we have an intact body that's processed on the scene, DNA samples are taken, then they're photographed by our crime scene personnel, transported to the medical examiner. Now, when we come across human remains, that's photographed, collected on the scene, and directly transported to the medical examiner's office for processing.
In Spanish.
Cuando tenemos un cuerpo humano, tenemos detectives y también crime scene personnel que están ahí para tomar el DNA sampling. Procesamos el víctima y lo transportamos para el ME's office. Si tenemos restos humanos, le toman las fotos, colectan y lo llevan para el medical examiner's office, y ahí es donde lo procesan.
Question for fire. Go ahead. Question for fire. We've seen your task force crews up on the rubble. Are the TRT crews still underneath, accessing through the garage, and what are some of the challenges?
No, what's extremely difficult. The debris field, again, the type of collapse that we had, it's one of the most difficult. So it's constant challenges that we're coming across. It's not our TRT. Originally it was Miami-Dade Fire Rescue TRT personnel, as well as our Florida Task Force 1 with that initial search, and then how we've been incorporated. But underneath,
Okay.
yes. But the majority, of our search for today has been, on the top. We've established certain fields that we're searching, and we're searching the entire debris fields now at this time. We delayer and we continue moving throughout.
One
Go ahead.
follow-up,
Yes.
sorry. Just a follow-up for the chief. The body that you were able to recover, was that on the top, or can you give us an idea of where your searchers encountered that?
No, I mean it was within within the debris field. I mean it was at a certain as we remove layers, we will tunnel. We will look for different aspects. Again, we continue using our equipment to see if we get specific positions, specific ideal locations where we can look, and we continue to remove debris. And then based on what we see, we try to coordinate the search that way.
Go ahead, sir.
Can you please reiterate the number for the unaccounted for, please?
So the accounted for went up by 130 because of the 3 bodies that were identified, and unaccounted to 156.
Mayor, can you tell us 2 things? Are the families going to be allowed to go visit the site while the rescue workers are working? Will there be any accommodation special for the families? And also, are any other buildings being evacuated, or are there any plans to evacuate any other buildings in Miami-Dade?
So as to family members visiting the site, they have asked for an opportunity to be able to reflect and pray near the site, and we are working to accommodate them to make that possible. As to evacuation, I'm going to ask Mayor to address that because this is in his city.
Thank you.
I had received calls from many residents who were frightened given the fact that the building they live in, Champlain Towers North, is basically the same building as Champlain Towers South. It was built at about the same time. It was built by the same developer. It was probably built with the same plans. It was probably built with the same materials. And given that we cannot determine what made Champlain South fall down, it's understandable that they're nervous. What I did was I reached out, after speaking to those residents on the first night, or it was the next morning, I reached out to Senator Scott and Mayor Cava and voiced my concerns, and we had a discussion, and the consensus was that taking action was probably necessary. Give them the option to relocate if they wanted to, and basically get in there and do a top to bottom forensic study of the building. What happened today was our Surfside building official went into the Champlain Towers North and the Champlain Towers East, which is adjacent, and they did a cursory review of the structure. And to paraphrase my conversation with my building official, he came back and said basically that they didn't find anything that was out of order. Now, so that's reassuring, but that is not a deep dive into the building itself. And there are people that have concerns about staying in the building given what's happened. I can't say that I'd be excited about staying in that building either. So what we did was today we were able to talk to FEMA, and FEMA said that they would make arrangements given that it's a relationship between what's happened, the catastrophe that's happened at the South building, and what's potentially going on at the North building in the other circumstances, that they would help with the relocation, the temporary relocation, because it's likely that that would probably only take a couple weeks for the deep dive, and then we would know, and we could probably say with certainty, or most likely, that the building is safe. Because right now I can't answer that question, but maybe in 2 weeks we can. Thank you.
Just to follow up on the North Tower, so there's no mandatory evacuation?
No, there was never a mandatory evacuation. It's always been voluntary.
And you mentioned the FEMA resources for the people who want to relocate.
Uh-huh.
How should they be accessing those FEMA?
That's a good question, and we're working on those details.
If I could just
Yes.
say, so we've identified a boundary for the FEMA relief, and it will include that area so that these families would be eligible for any FEMA relief.
What about the hotel next door? That's no one's in the hotel
Red
next door, right?
Red Cross is addressing that. That was evacuated, as was the building to the south, in an abundance of caution, given that the structure that still remains was deemed to be unsafe.
But everything in east and north is voluntary at this moment, based upon how people feel about where they're living.
Given what I've just said, yes.
Two questions. One, probably for fire. When was the
Okay.
last person alive pulled out of the rubble?
I don't have the exact time frame, but it would have been within the first few hours when we arrived.
Secondly, we've also heard that there's been some really expensive hotels in the area. More seasons is like $1,800 tonight. Have officials heard any reports about that or have any concerns about price gouging?
That's prices. Do we know anything from the Red Cross gentlemen?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware.
In terms of anybody who's been relocated as a result of this entire situation, there's no price gouging.
I have a question for the mayor of Surfside, sir. We interviewed this morning and asked you if you were aware that the 2018 engineering report had been sent to the office to the town officials. You said you look into that. Has there been any update?
Yes.
Has the city received this report?
I was sent that report today. As you know, I was the mayor in 2006 and 2010, and I became the mayor again in 2020. So I was not privy to that report at the time. However, given that issue was raised, I asked my building official to forward that report to me. I read that report, and there are issues in that report.
But can you confirm if the association sent the city that report prior to you coming into office?
The report was sent in 2018, yes.
To the town?
To the town, yes.
Was there any correspondence following that?
That's, you know, like I said, what we're doing now is we're saving lives and we're bringing people out of the rubble. What we're going to do is the next phase, after we address the support for the families, is we are going to do a very deep dive into why this building fell down. And I imagine that's going to end up being a very comprehensive sort of project.
Go ahead, question right here.
Is there an update on the scope of the audit that will be conducted? Like how many structures will be included in that?
So Miami-Dade County is proceeding already to all of the buildings that are at the recertification time, and that process is under review, and I do not have the total number, but it will be completed within 30 days.
And this is the final question here.
It's really just practical and pragmatic.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Julio Hierro from the town of Surfside. Currently, the perimeter extends from 85th Street to 96th Street. Harding Avenue is closed. Collins Avenue is obviously closed. We are asking for everyone to please avoid the area. Only residents are going to be allowed in to this interior perimeter. Obviously, our residents are suffering a lot as well in entering and exiting here. So the fewer people that enter, the quicker they can get in and out. East-west traffic is still available. As soon as we can, the goal is to open at least Harding Avenue and make it both north and southbound. Collins Avenue is going to be remaining closed for some time. La situación del tráfico en la ciudad de Surfside, estamos cerrando la ciudad prácticamente. Solo residentes pueden entrar de la calle 96 adentro del town de Surfside. Del sur, en la 85 calle, estamos dirigiendo el tráfico a Byron Avenue y pueden entrar por el sur en la calle 88, solo residentes. Estamos pidiendo que por favor, si no viven en Surfside o tienen necesidad de estar en esta área en general, por favor eviten la zona. Gracias.
Thank you, everyone. And now for Creole is going to be Ivan Morso.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Jeudi, nous faisons un pile progrès dans le travail que nous avons fait pour nous capables de sauver la vie avec jeunes en pile survivants. Nous avons un pile limitation, mais nous avons continué à poursuivre le système qui est un système quadrillé. Première priorité, c'est chercher à sauver la vie avec l'équipe qui travaille sérieusement et a déjà commencé à gagner un bon résultat. C'est un processus qui est long en pile parce que c'est ADN que nous prenons pour nous capables d'identifier et dans la qualité de travail, il prend un pile de temps. Et nous avons le temps d'identifier